Hello, it's Lucy from West 2. How is everybody? Hope everybody's really well. A little bit different for you today. We are going to hand build some gnome lanterns. These are really, really simple to do. Really easy beginner project. A little bit more involved than something like, peony candle holders, so they're a little bit more of a meaty project to get into, but they're still nevertheless really simple to do. I try and keep the tools as minimal as possible, because I do tend to make quite a lot of these. They do sell pretty well at markets, and I do these at hand building classes and things as well. So they are, probably takes me maybe an hour to make one, all in. So I'm going to take you right through from, I have pre-rolled a slab, because you don't need to see that. So however you roll your slab with slab rollers or rolling guides works perfectly fine. Yeah, so I've pre-rolled a slab, and this is just going to be the kind of rest of it, the putting together. And then once that's done, then we'll get it glazed together as well. So hopefully we'll see it coming out of the kiln at the end of this, all being well. But it hasn't gone a bit wild and run off, because we all know I like a runny glaze. So yeah, so I will get you turned around, get you pointed in the right direction, and then let's get cracked on, and get some gnomes made. All right, I'll see you in a bit, guys. Hello, it's future editing Lucy. So we obviously, first thing we need to do is compress a slab. I'm not going to make you watch everything in real time, because that would be very lengthy and dull. So we're just going to go ahead and get that compressed to start with. All the scraps of clay that we're going to need will come off the first piece that we will cut. So yeah, don't worry about having kind of extras kicking around. Just make sure you have some plastic. So the cutter that I'm using is from DLR Designs. They're really good cutters, but they are, because they're quite big, they're a little bit wobbly. So just be a little bit cautious with them. You could use just a standard paper template if you wanted to. So we're just going to go ahead and get that cut out. So I'm just going to go ahead and bevel the edges on my piece. This is just a dirt cheap bevel cutter from Temu. Nothing fancy. I like to keep my projects fresh, so I don't stiffen my slabs off by drying them before I work on them. I'm just a little bit more careful. That's mostly because I'm impatient. So I'm going to go ahead and slip and score both sides of the bevels, and then start adding slip and putting them together. This is where it gets a little bit flexible, shall we say. You have to be a little bit gentle with it. So I'm just going ahead and starting to blend my seams in, and then once I've done that, I'm going to get it onto, I use terracotta pots as rounders. You'll notice that I did not put any flour or corn flour on my pot, which I should have done, because I'm gonna pay for that later on. So make sure you put some kind of anti-sticking agent on your rounder. So we've got our basic structure now. So we're going to start kind of filling in all the details now. First thing we're going to do is put his little tip on his hat. And I just make a little cone for this and use the end of the carving tool to just make it into a cone, fit it, and then slip and score. One of the reasons why I like to work a little bit wetter is because I need less coils for attachments. However, this is one of those situations where I find I do need one. Most of the time when I'm working with wetter clay, I don't get as much cracking, so I don't need as many supporting coils, but this is one of the times when I do need them. So I'm just going to go ahead and get that blended in and do a little bit of finessing to just tidy them up. They do look really rough and ready at this stage, but don't worry about that. There's plenty of time to finesse that. So next thing to do is to start shaping his hat. So I like to give them little twisty points on them. And I just do this by just adding some water and just almost like a pulled handle. So just encourage it gently over and just keep lots and lots of water on your hand. And then just encourage it to bend over slightly. And you can give them all kind of slightly different shaped hats, and it's quite cute. So this one's just going to get a little curl over. So we're going to start adding all the rest of our bits and pieces now to make up our face. Usually I will, when I'm rolling coils, I will wet down my work desk because it just stops my coils from cracking when I'm rolling them out. This one is going to be his hat rim. So I want it to be probably twice the size of a pencil thickness. And I'm just going to slip and score it and just gently press it on. This is just going to give me a bit of a guideline as to where I need to slip and score on my gnome. And just cut him off to the right size. We'll need to adjust him again. I try and keep that kink in the kind of highest point of his brim, just so I can orientate it. So I know when I put it back on, I put it back on in the right place. So I'm going to press him in quite firmly. And then I'll need to readjust it again. Get that attached. And then I can just go around and just firm him in, and then just do a bit of tidying up with a brush and a sponge. And again, because the clay is so wet, I don't tend to need to do much blending or supporting coils in here. Very, very rarely get cracking here. Just need a little ball of clay for his nose. Flatten it out into a bit of a disc because you don't want it to be sticking out too far, and get that slip scored detached. Right, Tonka's come to supervise now. So next I need to grab my scraps of clay, and I'm going to give them a bit of a wedge back together, just because I need to roll another thin slab out of these for his beard. So obviously I don't want air pockets in there, so I'm just going to give it a wedge up and a roll out. Doesn't need to be perfect. And just get that rolled. Don't need loads of this, but I do want a fair bit because I'm going to press it around his hat and his nose to give me a guideline of where I need to mark to cut. So So I'm just going to lay it on my piece and then press it in, just so that I can see the outline where things are. And I'm going to use a knife to, I'm not cutting through, I'm just drawing a line. That's where I need to cut. So I can then get that cut out. And it will stretch a bit, but that's okay because we're going to mould it in afterwards. So again, slip and school, slip and school. You know the drill. And then I'm going to press them in quite firmly. So this is one of my most basic but most useful tools in the studio. And I only ever use the rounded end on these, the cutter's thumb end on these. And I'm just going to blend the edges of his beard in because I don't want it to be chunky square cut. I want it to be rounded. So I'm making sure to press in really, really well towards his nose and towards the edges and just give it a really good clean up. So the only place that I do find I get some cracking on these is around the top of his nose. So in a minute you're going to see me get the magic silicone, what are they called? The eraser tools out. And I'm just going to get the points in there right into the corners and into above, move the cat, and right into above his nose, because that is where I get the most cracking, because it's very, very difficult to get a really good seal in there. So that's probably where you need to be most cautious. So I'm just going to do a little bit of clean up on the inside, and just around his bottom. I had a bit of fun trying to get him off the pot because I didn't put any flour on it, so obviously, you know, you sit down on it and then got stuck. So yeah, I had a good 10-minute fight trying to get that off. But yeah, so I'm just going to give him a clean up on the inside. He is still really, really, really wet at this stage. So this is the first time that I'm going to do any cold drying. I'm impatient, so I use a heat gun, but you could easily just leave him to set up for a little while. You don't want him to be overly dry, just because I find that if it's a bit wetter, you get a cleaner cut when you put the holes in. So I'm just kind of sporadically going around and adding in some bigger holes. I only add holes to his coat and not to his hat. A, because glazing over holes is a nightmare. And B, it gives you the whole hat to get a really nice runny fluxy glaze on. And again, you can do that because you've got that hat in as a buffer there to stop the overflow. So I like having that big expanse for glazing. So I use 2 sizes of felt cutters. So I put the big ones in first, and then I go around and fill in with the smaller ones. And it just creates a really pretty effect when it's all done. It's nice having that variation. So I just spotted a little spot here where it's not quite blended in properly, so I'm just going to fix that quickly. And then this is the most satisfying part for me, is poking out all those little clay bubbles. So I'm just going to go around with the needle tool, and everywhere I can see a clay bubble, I'm going to poke it out, and then brush them out with the inside. And then I use my fingers to just have a bit of a buff around and just make sure that there's no kind of sharp edges on the inside, and pop him back on the former to make sure he stays round. So very last thing I need to do here is just get his beard carved. So this is really dead simple carving.
Just putting a few lines into his beard just to give him a bit of dimension, and then just using a sponge to soften it up, just so that we don't have those nasty sharp bits on the edge. And that's him. He's done. So he's going to go into plastic now to just dry slowly. So in true Blue Peter style, here is one that I made earlier, ready for glazing. So I'm going to start with 3 coats of honey flux on his hat rim and his beard. And these are the bits that are the most time consuming with the glazing on these, because you have to use a small brush to get right up to all the nooks and crannies. So just take your time with this and the rest will go a lot quicker. So the next one is 2 coats of fuzzy peach onto his nose. Well, 1 coat and 1 patchy coat. If it was raw clay, if it was buff clay, I'd be leaving his nose raw. But because it's white, I'm going to fill it in with fuzzy peach. And the patchy coat gives him a really nice rosy nose look, so as if he'd been out in the cold. So the next thing I'm going to do is Himalayan salt, and that is 3 coats everywhere that we haven't glazed yet. So this is my main base coat. So I want to get 3 coats onto his hat and his coat, and on the inside. So I do use a heat gun between layers to help dry off just time wise. You might have noticed as well that I also don't wash my biscuit. I know a lot of you are going to be screaming at me going, but you're talking about pinholes on your kiln openings. I do, but I'll point you towards, I'll leave it in the description for you. I'll point you towards a video that Dante did at Earth Nation Ceramics, where he did a test on washing biscuit before glazing, and it didn't make that much difference. And honestly, I haven't found a huge difference either between the amount of pinholes I was getting before when I was washing compared to now when I'm not washing. I do give them a bit of a dust down, but other than that, that's it. So the only thing that's about these that can be a little bit awkward is glazing round holes. And I do use a smaller detail brush to get right into those corners. Once I've been round and done a layer of glazing, I will grab something pokey. I think in this case I'm using a manual drill bit, and just go round and just poke through those holes and make sure there isn't any of them sealed up. I don't worry too much about the insides of holes not being glazed. You'd be there forever and a day. otherwise. So I don't worry too much about it personally, but it's a personal choice thing. I also don't, sometimes I wax bottoms, sometimes I don't. So it's just depends on how lazy I'm feeling that day. This particular day, clearly I wasn't up for it. So yeah. So we're going to start getting our accent colours on now. So I'm going to put 3 coats of Amaco Gold Honey. And I'm going to put a wavy pattern around about halfway up his hat. So I'm going to get that on now. And then we've got one more layer, one more glaze to go on top of that. So the last thing I'm going to put on is 2 layers of Jungle Gems Cheetah. And this is probably going to give Jeanette an absolute heart attack watching me mix a glaze like this with my brushes. But you know, they have to work for a living. So yeah. So going to get this on now. It's just 2 coats. This is already going to be a really runny combo, I think. Himalayan salt is runny anyway, and then add in the extra glaze with the honey flux and then the jungle gems on top, and this is going to be fairly fluid, I would think. So yeah, I've not tried this combo before, so it'll be exciting to see what comes out of the kiln. That's it, he's all ready to fire, so we'll get him into the kiln now. But yeah, so they're fun to make. And I'll see you for final results. Right, so we are out of the kiln, all finished, ready to go. So this one is ready to be labelled up and packed off and go off to market. And there he is. So it was indeed a very drippy glaze. But yeah, no, I'm very, very happy with him. I'm very happy with how he's turned out. So this is obviously the Himalayan salt that we did first, honey flux, fuzzy peach, golden honey to about here, and then 2 coats of jungle gem cheetah on top. But there's so many different ways you can glaze these. I've done them before with green coats, gold hats. I've done red and white ones. I've done blue ones. Yeah, so it just, it's like, and I don't always, as you can see, do them in particularly Christmas colours. But people love them. So yeah, they sell really, really well, and they're a lovely project to do. And once you get into the swing of them, yeah, it's less than an hour, I would say, to get one done. So yeah, very sweet. I hope you have a go at them. If you do have a go at them, send me some photos, so you can send them across to me on Instagram. It'd be lovely to see them. I can't wait to see them. Or I'll be watching your kiln openings. So put them in your kiln openings. So yeah, so that's it. So thank you so much for sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will give it a go. And otherwise, happy Christmas making, because we are well into it by now. In fact, I'm nearly done with Christmas making now. I'm on to friends and family stuff rather than markety stuff. But yeah, so I would love to know what you're making for Christmas, what your best sellers at markets are. So things like gnomes, Christmassy things like gnomes. So let me know in the comments below. And if you're not subscribed, please do. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and drop me a comment down below and let me know that you'd like this content more often. It's not particularly complicated to make, it's just a little bit more involved. So yeah, other than that, I will see you on the next video, guys. Have fun, and make sure you tag me in any photos.
All right, I'll see you later, guys. Bye now.